right time for us, there's no better time to call for a greater global social solidarity. Indeed, when the United Nations Secretary General spoke at the annual lecture earlier this year, he also said to us and called for a global social compact, a new global social compact in light of the crisis that we face. He even said, he went further, it was quite poignant, where he said, we belong to each other and we need to recognize that. My question to you, Madam Deputy Secretary General, is to what extent do you think that those in power, the big nations, are coming to the party when it comes to building that solidarity and that new global compact?
Well, okay, this is a really tough part of the conversation, because what is being said is not being met with the commitments on the ground. So there is no big leader or country that is not actually saying what you would like them to say. But the distance between what has been said and what has been done in terms of the response that is needed is very, very far. And I think that that's what we were trying to do in convening in the United Nations and pointing out that what we need to get is a mindset that brings these solutions and that unlocks what is already there to tackle this. And we did this in a way in which we really spoke to those people who on a daily basis create the substance and the discussion for their leaders and take the solutions. We had over 259 solutions on the financing side that we then took to leaders, and we harvested 8 or 9 issues that political leaders needed to take. I think the momentum behind that needs to be grown by a broad swath of stakeholders, which includes civil society, business, the most unlikely of suspects, even our voices from civil society with parliaments. The pressure needs to be felt. We tried to make this apparent when we spoke to leaders by saying to them that, look, if you don't make the investments today that we need for the response to COVID, the humanitarian crisis will triple-fold. And that humanitarian crisis falls on young people that will not have a job. It falls on women. It falls on children. And so therefore, the social fabric of societies will begin to disintegrate. That will create an instability that will require far many more resources to get your security back and your stability back in this world that is so interconnected. And we know that now because COVID has shown how interconnected we are. Now, we got lots of feedback from leaders. And what I would say is that, you know, the struggle continues. We have opportunities this year, and I think that we can still, push leaders to try to make those commitments into a reality. I am concerned that many leaders in countries in Africa and in other vulnerable countries are fast losing any hope that there is going to be a resolution coming from a global response. And that's not a good place to be, because they are, and I'm seeing many leaders in Africa who are beginning to face what they need to with governance, with programs that are inclusive, because they have to. They've got no option. And yet the return on the other side is not happening. And that, I think, is not a good place to be. And so I think what we need to do, again, back to the evidence, we really need to show concretely the implications of inaction. And, that's going to start playing out very quickly. I think in some countries it already has started, and we need to be wary of that.
As you've said, ma'am, the intersecting inequalities which have existed globally are particularly defined perhaps in a country like South Africa, where we have the highest levels of inequality. They've been amplified by this particular pandemic. And the people who are worst affected often in that scenario are women and children. You spoke about the importance of elevating young people when it comes to leadership. How do we ensure that, as there is an ongoing scrutiny and facing this crisis, that young people and women do not get left behind, or that inequality isn't further amplified?
I mean, I think every one of us as leaders, individually and collectively, needs to look around our tables and to see where the women are. We've made a lot of efforts this year where we've seen women in leadership positions to try to profile them and advocate that you said there are no women for leadership. Well, there are men in leadership not taking actions, and there are women leaders who are not in those offices to take the actions that need to be taken. So I think we need to rethink where we have the possibility to move women into those leadership positions by profiling the leaders that we have. We've done that with Women Rise, and I'm just, every time I look for more leaders, I find even more. So I think be very, very determined to put them in those places. We've done that in the United Nations. We are 50-50 now on parity, but our women are not tokens. They're all leading. Every discussion we have, the power relations that have changed, the results that come out of that are particularly important. With young people, I mean, every organization's got young people, and they sort of remain at the bottom of the table. One of the things I've challenged everyone to do is to say, for the day, for the week, when you're having meetings and you're chairing a meeting like I am, move to the side and put a young person in to chair the meeting that day. They get a greater sense of what responsibility means, and they also get some confidence, and they can bring their ideas forward. It sounds like not very much, but it's a huge amount to a young person. And so I think, you know, it starts at those small building blocks before you begin to think about elections and what you're growing to put in terms of the woman's vote, so that she gets behind other women into public office, into the parliament, into what we're already doing. We just need to scale it up. We need to deepen it and not put it to one side because there is COVID. It's even more reason now why we need to dig deeper. And that's why I say target the stimulus packages, because those stimulus packages need to be spent, and we need to make sure that they're spent equitably and that we have an equal chance and right to target the spending.
Some of that targeted spending, you mentioned a particular focus on education. And now that many young people are unable to go into class, there is a challenge around access to technology to ensure that young people or children can learn. Do you think there's sufficient momentum in making that access available to ensure that we don't have this generation of people who may not get an education?
Well, I mean, the education issue with COVID is that it is now a global issue. The inequalities in northern countries have shown that you need to pay attention to kids having access. I mean, one of the things we didn't realize was that even in rich countries, that there were many kids who were relying on a nutritious meal, which now is no longer available, and you find people trying to find ways to get that to the families. So I think that connecting first teachers, then your children, is really important. Don't forget the teachers. The computer's not going to teach the child. There needs to be facilitation. We all are who we are because of one teacher or another. And maybe teaching changes, but that teacher doesn't leave. And I think that technology needs to be rooted in that knowledge. And for us, I am seeing the momentum. I am seeing that behind some of the education initiatives, when we are trying to reimagine education, because, you know, certainly we're not going to go back to the old tools before COVID. It will be a new era. It will be a new way of learning, a new way of accessing. And I think we just have to make sure that the digital divide is closed within some of the responses that we will have now. It's now to have the opportunity. Before COVID, very difficult to get financing for reducing the digital divide. Today, people know that that has to be filled, and so you're suddenly finding that businesses are coming into this because it's also in their interest. And I think that, you know, we need to push that. It is in self-enlightened interest to make sure that the cohort of young people we have today remain in education and are able to acquire the skills to join the economy and prosperous nations thereafter.
Excellency, thank you so much for your insight and your input and your time. As ever, we've gained a lot from your insights, very thought-provoking, and we appreciate your time this morning and the inspirational messages that you've shared with our four finalists.
Can I just say one thing? Sorry,
yes.
You know, I'm not a very, you forgot to say I was in civil society, so never always keep quiet. But, you know, just really to say, messaging young people, this life is about a journey. And that journey, each step you have to make count. Often I think kids are at the bottom of this mountain and they see the top and they want to press a button to get there. It doesn't happen. It is your whole life cycle, and make it count, because none of it is a waste if you do that. And draw on that story and on that journey so that when you are in a position like Gail today, when she opens the mouth to talk about Africa and its development, she's doing it from her journey. It has authenticity, it has integrity, because she's picking up on her experiences, her networks, and the very real things that have happened, and trying to make policy practice so that we can get the frameworks that we put out there. Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much to the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed joining us from New York. Now, over to Sello. Without further ado, we've kept you waiting long enough. To Sello to announce our winner.
Thank you very much, Nikki. You know, whenever I... Thank you very much, Nikki. You know, whenever I listen to the Deputy Secretary General, I'm taken to the Nelson Mandela annual lecture you delivered. Back then, may I remind you, ma'am, that you told us that it's not enough to dream. We must walk. Even when we're tired, we must keep walking because that's what Madiba did. And that's what you did today again, inspired us to keep walking, to not think that we can press a button and just get there, that it's a journey. Now, this is a very important moment. You've been waiting long enough, but they told me the auditors are in the room. I looked around, you know, auditors usually wear suits. Like me, I couldn't see a suited person here. Then he told me there's an envelope here. I can't find it. I'm afraid we have to wait. I'm now seeing a message here saying the One Africa's Senior Operations Director, Kendani Mutambi, will now be handing over the envelope because the auditors had to double check it. So here we go. Thank you very much. In my hands, I have the most important news of 2020. I know that you all are COVID worried, but now, was it sanitized? It was sanitized, but you didn't sanitize the results. Oh, okay. I just want to double check. I'm double checking that the results were not sanitized. I've got the name here. They did tell me who won, but just want to double check. Is this it? It's the one that I have, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please help me as we do a virtual congratulation to Public and Private Development Center. You are the winners of the 2021 Africa Award.
Well, wonderful and a hearty congratulations to our winners. We're hoping that they will join us in a few moments' time to say their words of thanks. Wow, that was incredible. I mean, all of the finalists, of course, have done outstanding work. These are African-led and driven initiatives aimed at achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We heard from our keynote speaker about the importance of solidarity and importance of partnerships, particularly at this time of crisis, but presumably well beyond that as well. If we are to eradicate poverty, bridge the widening inequality gap, because we always speak about inequality here in South Africa from such a place of passion, given what we have experienced in terms of inequality and the various intersecting inequalities, and some of the action that is being taken by our finalists certainly helps to bridge that inequality, particularly with a focus on girl children. Just a few days ago, we know that the United Nations was marking the International Day of the Girl Child, and our own event today comes just a few days ahead of the International Day of Poverty Eradication. So let's drive that momentum and all of our efforts towards that. And hopefully we'll be able to hear from today's winners in a short while, technology allowing. And are they there? All right. There we have it. Congratulations. And over to you. Well done. Woo.
Thank
Like
you
that
so much.
big sigh.
I'm just lost for words. I know we said 2 minutes. I'm just going to try to stick to the 2 minutes. But just to say thank you to the One Africa team and everyone who made this possible. Thank you very much for having this award there, recognizing the work that civil societies such as PPDC and others around Africa, the work we do. And thank you also to the community we have at PPDC, all the people that support us, our donors, our friends, our Twitter army, our Instagram army, everybody who has supported PPDC's work at the community across Africa and across the world. Thank you. And just to say also thank you to the awesome people I have at PPDC. Well done, and thank you for all the work you do. And thank you to the families that you have that give us the time and the space and the support to do the work we do, the traveling, the late nights, the time away from our children, the time away from our spouses. Thank you all for the work you do. So I'm just going to catch my breath. Thank you all.
Well done to you once again, Kim. Well deserved. Just to remind you that is $100,000 award for the organization doing the most work aimed at achieving the SDGs over the past year. So the Public and Private Development Center doing fantastic work and being this year's 2019-2021 award winner. Just to let you know that Amina Mohammed, who had joined us earlier, had to, of course, attend to other business, but she wanted to just let us know that she was delighted to have joined us and to convey her hearty congratulations to the winner and thanks to the organizers of this particular event. But she's had to leave us virtually, but I'm sure her words will ring with us and stay with us for a while still. It's time now to introduce our next speaker, Gail Smith, who is the One President and CEO, to finally give us the vote of thanks. Gail Smith is the president and CEO of the One Campaign. She's served as a top advisor on development issues for 2 American presidents and is one of the world's leading experts on global development. She brings an unparalleled expertise on development and democracy issues and an extraordinary network of relationships across the African continent and around the world. Please give a warm welcome to One Campaign president and CEO, Gail Smith.
Thank you. And my first thanks goes to you for your wonderful moderation. It really brings a warmth and a unity to the entire event. Look, I'm delighted to have the job here of doing the vote of thanks because I feel enormously grateful to be a part of this, but to also be here at a moment when the world is in trouble. I think we would all agree. We're facing a crisis, the glaring systemic inequality and inequities that shape all of our countries and communities, and in fact, the planet, have never been more evident. But I'm sitting and listening to this event, looking at all the people who applied, our finalists, our winner, and I feel extraordinary hope. So my thanks is to everybody for giving us the hope and inspiration. Obviously, our thanks to Amina Mohammed, who we were delighted to have with us. She's a friend to all of us, a champion for everything we believe in. So to you and the entire team at the Nelson Mandela Foundation, thank you for your wonderful role in this event, but a terrific partnership. And I think that you should probably be the award presenter in more events because that whole thing about was it sanitized was actually quite good. Nikiwe, obviously, again, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and your effectiveness. Jackie Tamanzi, who's on our Africa Policy Advisory Board, I want to give special thanks to for working with us on this process, and any other members of APAB that may be with us today. To all the finalists, obviously to our winner, but to everybody who applied. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Brick by brick, you are building the world we all want to live in. And we've got your backs. You've got our support, our solidarity, and our gratitude. Our partners at MTV Base, who've promoted this event, we're grateful for that and thank you. Our One champions who may be with us, these are the frontline troops who really get out there on behalf of One and make the change we want to see. All our members and supporters across the continent, to the media that's covered this, and to everybody in the public that's watching. As a point of pride, I'd like to close out my vote of thanks with a really heartfelt thanks to the One Africa team for continuing to pull off the winners. So thank you to all of you and to everybody. Let's keep building the world we want to live in, brick by brick, and thank you for leading the way.
Thank you so much, Gail, and thank you so much for joining us today and the incredible work that the One campaign continues to do. Once again, a hearty congratulations to today's winners, the Public and Private Development Center. We heard from Kim there. Wonderful work that you're doing, and really keep on going. And what would a celebration be without a bit of music? How would we end any kind of celebration without music? And that's exactly how we're going to leave you, with a song which was put together as something of an anthem during the COVID crisis. It puts together 10 of Africa's top musicians, and they came together to create this COVID-19 solidarity anthem. And the song is called Stand Together. That's it from me. Enjoy.
Everything is changed nowadays. Funny how we can't even play no more. It was only yesterday when we party every day. Now it's blood on the dance floor. And because of the virus, but it can't kill the power inside us to stand together and defeat Corona. And now we are called better. Things are changing. Inshallah. Cause nobody is safe until everybody's safe. So I mean, I don't talk with shot. I tell to tell you, she not to come back and it up. To she like COVID-19. So no kill us about ya como tali wengine tafadhali. So nilinde, so alinde, so amwesa. One day, my people. One day we'll be celebrating cause this pain is over. Until we'll be celebrating us. Cause nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Everybody is safe.
Ready no go forever. Sun goes to shine, my sister. We go beat go. If we start together, if we stand in solidarity, we don't go be too far down. Yeah, me I love that. Me I like you and I know you like me too. Me I love you and I know you love me too. Be honest with you want. I'm not divided, so nobody's safe until everybody's safe. Oh, me I want to be safe. Oh, baby, pushing Jesus. Feels like we just meeting. We'll pick up the pieces, start over. All the tears will be all over. Any minute we will be much closer. For now we scream and shout. One day, my people. One day we celebrate cause this day is over. Nothing will be separating us. Nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Everybody is safe. One day, my people. One day we'll be celebrating cause this day is over. Nothing will be separating us. Nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Everybody is safe. She pass
c'est le gros big up à tous ceux qui font le taf. Dans les hôpitaux, la tristesse sous les masques. Mister Coro nous a piqué dans la face. On a tous peur, quoi qu'on dise, quoi qu'on fasse. On va gagner, gagner, gagner. À nous la victoire, notre histoire, elle va changer. Tous les jours et soirs, c'est la messe. Frérot, tu sais, on nous a tous mis dans la S.
Mothers are kings and fathers are queens. You reign in your quest for the truth and striving to sleep. The people in your past can relate. Your victory great. I saw you on the ships in your graves. Your fathers relate. Many cries now, but they never beat the sunrise. Winning in your fight, and we waiting for your come. Right, your faith gon' heal you. Heaven gon' keep you. I'm praying that the sun never leaves you. I feel you here.
Hey, se não nos unirmos agora, tudo que construímos outrora, destruímos agora. É melhor nos munirmos agora. O futuro das crianças decidimos agora. Covid não escolhe cor, somos todos alvos. Enquanto não tivermos todos, ninguém tá salvo. A mensagem é básica, para não mudarmos o nome da Mama África para Mama Lágrima.
No me alfa, the sky is good, nada abro que tagalu, undo like a go, but tired you chala. One day, my people, one day we'll be celebrating this day is over. Nothing will be separating us. Cause nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Everybody is safe. One day, my people, one day we'll be celebrating this day is over. Nothing will be separating us. Cause nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Everybody is safe. One day, my people, one day we'll be celebrating us. This day is over. Nothing will be separating us. Cause nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Everybody is safe.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.